I want to get the handling on my TC to be more neutral for day-to-day driving. Right now, there's some understeer that happens because of the back end. So I'm going to solve that by replacing the stock 22 millimeter diameter rear sway bar with this one from Eibach, which is, I believe this is 29 millimeters. It's a pretty hefty bar. You only have to do the rear bar for day-to-day driving. You can leave the front bar stock. The only reason you'd want to do the front bar also is if you're actually doing autocrossing, because you want the adjustability for various track conditions. But for day-to-day, just do the rear. If you decide that you really want to do the front one because you like that go-kart feel, you'll probably want to leave it on the middle setting or the loosest setting, depending on your entire suspension setup. Otherwise, you'll affect your handling adversely. So this part number for just the rear is 82101.312. If you want both the front and rear, you can order them together. Part number is 82101.320. Included in the box is 3 pages of instructions for removal of the old sway bar and installation of the new one, new brackets and urethane bushings. You also get the grease for the bushings. You want to use this liberally in the bushing because if you don't put enough in, you're going to get creaks and squeaks when you go over bumps, and I've seen so many people complain about that happening. You also get a pair of bushings for the end links as well as cup washers, and then they toss in a pair of decals and then a warranty, and it looks like I am eligible for a $10 rebate because I have just the rear sway bar. Alright, so if you're installing a new sway bar, I'm going to definitely recommend replacing the end links as well. One is removing the old end links is a huge pain. Because they get rusted and you can probably, you might risk stripping something trying to do that. Also, assuming that the factory bushings are rubber, which would absorb some of the extra force when you make your turns. These are urethane, so they're going to direct any of that force when you make your turns to the end links. So you don't want to have your end link break, so get some quality ones. I picked up these from Moog, so this is what it looks like. The part number on this one is K750522. So I'm going to go ahead and actually pre-install this onto the sway bar so I can get it torqued to specs. Because when I go to remove the old one, I'm literally going to just take the brackets off of this. There's 2 other brackets, cross brackets you got to remove for clearance to get the old sway bar out. But once I take these off, I'm just going to pull the entire old sway bar off with the end links attached, and then slide this into place with the end links attached, and then put the new brackets in place and bolt these in place. So it'll be theoretically an easy install to do. All right, I'm going to go ahead and attach these to the sway bar now. Alright, so I've got the first end link installed. I'm really glad I'm doing this off of the car because there's just not enough room really to work a torque wrench underneath of there. Obviously you'll have this on the floor and you'll put your foot down here and then tighten this nut down with your wrench. I did apply some anti-seize lubricant to the threading before I put the nut on here, and I highly recommend doing that as well because if you need to remove this later down the road, you don't want to have this nut seized onto here. Now, the one thing I don't like about the Eibach instructions is that they don't tell you the torque specs for anything. I found some TRD instructions online, and they say that this should be 70 foot-pounds. Now, if you were to just start tightening this, you'll find that the center shaft will just free spin on you. You need to hand tighten this as much as possible first before you use the torque wrench, and you do that by taking a 6mm hex key, insert it into the center shaft here, and then take a 19mm wrench over the hex key, hold the hex key in place, and then tighten this down as much as you can, because I can assure you that no matter how tight you use the wrench on here, you will not exceed the 70 foot-pounds. Once you get that as tight as you can, then you can come in with your torque wrench and then tighten this down until the torque wrench clicks at 70 foot-pounds, and then you're done. Alright, so let me go ahead and install the other end link. And I've got the second end link installed now. Alright, so I'm not actually going to install the sway bar until tomorrow morning, so I've zeroed out my torque wrench. Always zero out your torque wrench if you're not going to use it immediately. Alright, so now the next thing I'm going to do is show you how to install these bushings before we actually do the install itself. You're going to take one of the cup washers, slip it over the end here like this, and then take the bushing that looks like this and slip it over top just like this. Now, basically what's going to happen is on the control arm, the hole where this goes through is going to be larger than the actual threading on here. It's going to be this diameter. So this is going to go through the hole in the control arm. The threading is going to stick out from underneath, and then you're going to come in from underneath, take the other bushing with the recessed opening here, and then slide it in from underneath the control arm, and then the other cap washer here, and then the nut. And that's how you're going to install this bushing here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these two because we don't need to use these yet until we actually get this installed. Alright, so now I'm going to wait till morning, and then we'll take off the old sway bar and install the new one.
It's 6 o'clock. Time to get started. Let's go.
Alright, I got everything I need out here. The car is up on jack stands. Let's get underneath and take a look at the OEM sway bar. Alright, so here is where the end link meets the factory sway bar on this side, and then it's kind of behind the exhaust flange on this side, but there's the other one. Here is the nut that's holding the end link to the control arm on this side, and then this side. So I'm gonna hose both of these down with WD-40 to make sure that I get it all on the threads to make it the removal of the nut easier. There is a bracket here with 3 bolts in it on this side, and another one right here. So I'm gonna have to remove both of those to get the sway bar out. Make you further underneath the car. So here is the bracket holding sway bar in, so just 2 bolts to remove on that side, and then 2 bolts to remove on this side. So basically once I get the end link nuts off and then the 4 bolts holding the sway bar in place, this thing will be removable. I just have to get these brackets out of the way first. Additionally, I may need to unbolt the exhaust here so I can drop the mid pipe down a little bit to actually get the sway bar out and back in, but we'll find out if I have to do that or not once I get the other bolts out. Alright, let's go ahead and start removing bolts. I'm going to go ahead and start with removing the 2 brackets here and here. They're held in by 3 bolts each. You'll need a 12mm socket to remove them. In the meantime, I've already sprayed both the bottom threads on the end links with WD-40, so I'm going to let that soak in as well. Alright, let's take these things out. Alright, so those came off easily enough. So now we're going to go ahead and take the nuts off that are holding the end links to the control arm. So you're going to want to use a 14mm deep socket for those. Just put it on here, and see, these have been soaking in WD-40 for a little while, so let's see if that helps. Excellent. Alright, so let me go ahead and get both of these off, and then we'll get the sway bar brackets off next. Alright, I got the nut off, and here's the lower bushing with the cup washer. It looks like it's just attached to it though. So alright, now to do the tricky part, which is getting the bolts off of the brackets. So let's see, this one's a little bit easier to see. Alright, so these bolts are going to be 14mm. So I'm going to hope I can get it off with my socket. If I can't, then it's going to be time to bust out the breaker bar. Alright, let's go ahead and get those 4 bolts out. So I've gotten all 4 bolts off of the brackets, and I was able to now lift the sway bar up enough to pull both end links out and face them this way and that way. So unfortunately I am correct in that I will need to unbolt the flange on the exhaust here so I can drop the mid pipe a little bit, because it is kind of blocking me from getting this out easily enough. I'm sure if I futzed with it enough I could get it out, but just to make it easier, I'm going to go ahead and remove these 2 bolts here and then take the sway bar out. All right, so I got the mid pipe disconnected and dropped down, and you can see the OEM sway bar is going to come out on the driver's side here. I'm just going to slide it right out, and then I'll show you a comparison between the two, and then install the new one. When I removed the OEM sway bar from the back, I found it easier to make sure you take the single piece bracket that holds the bushings in place off first to give you some more room to finagle it out the driver's side. But here you go. You can see the 22 millimeter versus the 29 millimeter, so considerable difference in thickness. And then, of course, here is the OEM end link with the rubber bushings, and then the new one from Moog that I'm going to install. All right, let me go ahead and get the new sway bar in place. All right, so I've got the new sway bar finagled into place, and then I'm using the new end links to hold it there so that it doesn't fall. I'm going to go ahead and just install the bottom cup washer and the nut, but I'm not going to tighten it down all the way. I just want to put it on there just so that it'll stay in place and not fall. But let me go ahead and show you here. You can see that the bottom of the top urethane bushing is sticking out through the hole here, like as I said it was going to do. So, all right, let me go ahead and put those bushings and cup washers in place now. All right, so I've already greased the one bushing here. I used half of the packet. It's a little messy looking in there, but that's okay. Basically, I tried to draw lines all along the length of the inside of here. So I'm going to install this onto the sway bar and then rotate it to give it a good spread, and then I'll do the other one. So let me put this in, and then I'll show you exactly where it's going to sit and how it's going to look. All right, so you're going to install the bushing over the sway bar outside of this flange here, and then give it a rotate to make sure that you get the grease spread really well. You'll want to get any excess grease off of there that comes out of the opening. All right, great. So let me do the other one and then secure it with the bracket. All right, so I'm gonna secure the bracket bolts by hand and then use my torque wrench and torque it down to 58 foot-pounds for all 4 bolts. All right, the bushing is secured. Now I'm gonna go ahead and install the bottom nut on the end link here. I've already applied some anti-seize lubricant on there, so I'm just going to take the bottom bushing like this, slip it on here, put on the nut, and then I'm going to hand tighten it, and then torque it down to 22 foot-pounds. All right, I went ahead and reattached my mid pipe so it's not hanging in the way. Now we're just going to install the 2 brackets back here again. These bolts are tightened down to 24 foot-pounds. Once these are in place, the installation will be done. And the installation is complete. Time to go for a test drive. I've already taken the car out for a preliminary test drive through the neighborhood, went over speed bumps, took a couple of turns easy, and then kind of a little bit faster with the windows open so I can listen to see if there's any noises, like creaking noises or any popping sounds from the back, and everything sounds great. I did bring the car home first, double-checked all the specs on the bolts, and they're fine, so then I took it out for a more aggressive test run. Took some turns a little bit faster. I will definitely say that it is night and day difference. The back end feels a lot tighter, feels more responsive. The car feels a lot more balanced going around the turns. I've also taken it out on the highway and some of the exit ramps. So, I mean, I took the exit ramps. I didn't take them very fast, but I took them fast enough that you can kind of get the feel of the car. And it definitely feels more balanced. So I'm really happy I got the rear sway bar. I highly recommend picking it up if you can find it on sale. That's actually the only reason why I picked it up, was I used those Chrome extensions that look for coupon deals, and I found one for $45 off on it on eBay. Unfortunately, that deal is no longer valid, but I got it from Discount Tires Direct on eBay. I'll put that link at the bottom of the video, and I'll also put the link for the Amazon store where you can find it as well. Hopefully it'll go on sale. If not, see if you can find someone that's willing to sell theirs. Just make sure you get new end links when you buy it, because that will simplify your installation. Honestly, the install was really easy for me. The hardest part I had was actually getting the exhaust bolts off so I can lower the mid pipe. Alright, well, I hope this helps you decide on picking up a rear sway bar or not, as well as show you exactly what you're getting into to do the installation. Thanks for watching.